Simon's hand pressed against my lower back as we descended the maintenance stairs. The city noise faded above us, replaced by the echo of our footsteps on metal grating. "I've prepared a little adventure beneath the city," he'd said over dinner, his voice carrying that particular weight I'd learned to recognize. Not a question. An invitation wrapped in certainty. The air grew cooler as we went deeper. Concrete walls replaced the tiled entrance, and the fluorescent lights gave way to shadows broken only by emergency strips. I could smell rust and old water, the particular staleness of spaces forgotten by the surface world. "How much farther?" I asked. "Almost there." His fingers found the small of my back again, guiding me left down a corridor I hadn't seen. The passage narrowed, forcing us single file. Simon moved ahead, confident in the darkness like he'd walked this path before. We emerged into a wider tunnel, clearly abandoned. Old metro rails caught what little light filtered down from somewhere above. The air held a different quality here, expectant, waiting. A single lamp sat on a wooden crate, casting a warm circle of light against the curved wall. The setup looked deliberate, planned, not random exploration, but careful preparation. "This is it," Simon said, stopping beside the lamp. "Your adventure." I touched the brick wall, feeling decades of moisture and neglect. "What kind of adventure?" "The kind where you discover what you're truly capable of." He checked his watch. "I'll be back in an hour." Before I could respond, he was walking back toward the entrance, his footsteps fading into the tunnel's mouth. The lamp flickered once, then steadied, leaving me alone with the weight of whatever he'd arranged. 10 minutes passed before I stopped checking the tunnel entrance every 30 seconds. The silence wasn't complete. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped steadily against stone, and the building above occasionally groaned through the infrastructure. I leaned against the wall, where Simon had positioned me, feeling the cold seep through my jacket. The brick was rough against my palm, worn smooth in places by decades of forgotten commuters. My phone had no signal down here. The screen's glow felt intrusive against the lamp's warmer light, so I put it away and tried to understand what Simon wanted from this. We'd been married 8 years, long enough to recognize his patterns, the way he orchestrated experiences rather than simply suggesting them, long enough to know he never did anything without purpose. The lamp cast my shadow long across the opposite wall. I wondered who had carried it down here, when, how many trips it had taken to prepare whatever this was meant to be. Footsteps echoed from the tunnel mouth. Not Simon's gate. Too heavy, too many of them. Multiple sets of feet moving with purpose through the darkness. I straightened, my heart finding a different rhythm. 4 men emerged from the shadows beyond the light. They moved like they belonged here, like this tunnel was their territory rather than an abandoned curiosity. One carried a canvas bag that clinked softly with each step. They stopped just outside the lamp's circle, studying me. The one in front was older, maybe 45, with calloused hands and eyes that had seen things. The others ranged younger, but all carried themselves with the same quiet confidence. "Hannah," the older one said. Not a question. I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. "Simon said you're not afraid of the dark." The older man stepped closer, close enough that I could see the small scar along his jaw, the way his shirt stretched across broad shoulders. His companions remained in the shadows, patient. "I'm Marcus," he said. "These are my friends." He gestured to the others without looking away from me. "Simon was very specific about what you might enjoy." The bag one of them carried made another soft sound as he set it down. Not tools, something softer. Fabric, maybe. Personal items. "What did he tell you?" I asked. Marcus smiled. "That you've been curious about boundaries, about what happens when you step outside the lines you've drawn for yourself." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a plastic keycard, the kind hotels use. Plain white, no markings. He held it between two fingers like an offering. "This opens a door you didn't know existed," he said. "But only if you want it to." I took the card. It was warm from his pocket, heavier than it looked. What door? The one between who you are and who you might become. Marcus moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his skin. "Simon thinks you're ready to find out." His hand settled on my waist, fingers spread against the fabric of my jacket. Not aggressive, but certain. Testing. I didn't step back. The other men moved closer, forming a loose circle in the lamp's light. One was tall and lean with dark hair, another stockier with careful eyes. The youngest looked maybe 30, with ink visible at his collar. "What happens if I use it?" I asked, holding up the card. "You discover what you've been missing," Marcus said. His thumb traced a small circle against my hip. "What Simon's been wanting to give you." The tunnel felt smaller suddenly, the walls closer. The lamp cast our shadows in strange directions, overlapping and separating as we moved. I slipped the keycard into my pocket. Marcus's hands found my face first, thumbs tracing my cheekbones with surprising gentleness. The others moved closer, and I felt the tunnel walls disappear, replaced by warmth and careful touches. "Tell us to stop," the tall one murmured against my ear, "and we stop." But I didn't want them to stop. Simon had been right about the boundaries, about what I'd been curious to explore. These men knew exactly what they were doing, how to make me feel desired without making me feel used. The lamp cast everything in golden light as fabric whispered against stone. Hands that knew how to give pleasure, mouths that understood patience. I closed my eyes and let myself fall into sensation, into the freedom of being wanted by strangers who owed me nothing but this moment. Time moved differently in the tunnel. Minutes stretched into something unmeasurable, punctuated by soft sounds and the echo of breathing against brick walls. They took turns being close to me, each bringing something different. Marcus's confident experience, the tall one's careful intensity, the younger man's eager attention. When it was over, we sat in the lamp's circle, clothes readjusted, breathing slowly returning to normal. The stocky one offered me water from a bottle that had been in their bag. I drank gratefully, tasting nothing but cold and clean. "Simon will be back soon," Marcus said, checking a watch I hadn't noticed before. I nodded, not trusting my voice yet. The keycard felt different in my pocket now, heavier with meaning. "Was this what he wanted?" I finally asked. "This was what you wanted," the tall one corrected gently. "Simon just made it possible." They gathered their things quietly, efficiently. The bag that had clinked before now made no sound at all. Whatever they'd brought was either used or no longer necessary. Marcus paused before leaving. "The card opens more than one door," he said. "Remember that." Then they were gone, footsteps fading into the tunnel's mouth, leaving me alone with the lamp and the echo of what had just happened. Simon's footsteps announced his return 15 minutes later. I heard him coming long before he appeared, giving me time to smooth my hair, check my clothes, prepare whatever expression I wanted him to see. He emerged into the lamplight carrying 2 coffee cups, as if he'd simply stepped out for refreshments rather than orchestrating something that had changed me fundamentally. "How was your adventure?" he asked, offering me one of the cups. The coffee was still hot, perfectly prepared the way I liked it. He'd timed everything precisely, not just the encounter, but the aftermath, the moment when I'd need something warm to hold while processing what had happened. "Illuminating," I said. Simon smiled, settling beside me against the wall. The lamp flickered slightly, shadows dancing across his face. They're good men. I've known Marcus for years. How long have you been planning this? Months. He sipped his coffee, studying my expression. Ever since you mentioned wondering what it would feel like to be completely free for an hour. I remembered that conversation. Late night, wine-loosened tongues, the kind of pillow talk that usually evaporated by morning. But Simon had been listening, storing it away, turning a passing thought into careful reality. Are you angry? He asked. I considered the question seriously. Tested my emotions the way you might probe a sore tooth. No. Disappointed? No. Regretful? I met his eyes. No. Simon nodded, unsurprised. Even this is part of us, he said quietly. The lamp cast our joined shadows against the opposite wall. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee in an abandoned tunnel, both of us changed by what had happened here. The keycard in my pocket felt like a promise rather than a memory. What happens now? I asked. Now we go home, Simon said. And tomorrow we decide what comes next. Morning light through our bedroom window felt harsh after the tunnel's golden glow. I'd slept badly, waking every few hours to find Simon watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Over breakfast, he slid a small receipt across the table. Hotel stationery, handwritten in Marcus's careful script. Room 412, whenever you're ready. What's this? An option, Simon said, buttering his toast with mechanical precision. Not an obligation. I studied the paper. Clean white hotel stock, expensive feel. The kind of place that didn't ask questions about who came and went. You want me to go? I want you to have choices. Simon met my eyes. Last night opened something. We can close it again, pretend it never happened. Or we can see where it leads. I folded the receipt, slipped it into my robe pocket next to the keycard that had somehow made the journey home with us. And if I go? Then you go. That's it? No conditions, no rules. Simon's smile was complicated. The only rule is honesty. Whatever happens, we tell each other the truth about it. I poured more coffee, buying time to think. The morning routine felt surreal after the previous night's intensity. Dishes in the sink, newspapers on the counter, the ordinary domestic rhythm that had defined our marriage for 8 years. What if this changes everything between us? It already has, Simon said simply. The question is whether we change with it or fight against it. He stood, kissed my forehead with the same gentle pressure Marcus had used on my cheekbones. I'll be at the office until 6. Whatever you decide is right. After he left, I sat alone with the receipt and my coffee, watching morning light shift across our kitchen table. The keycard lay beside my plate like an ordinary object, giving no hint of the doors it might open. By noon, I'd made my choice. I didn't go to the hotel. Instead, I spent the day walking through the city, thinking about boundaries and what it meant to cross them. By evening, I understood something Simon had known all along. The gift hadn't been the encounter itself, but the freedom to choose it. He found me in our living room when he came home, the receipt and keycard laid out on the coffee table between us like evidence. You stayed, he said. I stayed. Simon loosened his tie, sat across from me. Why? Because I wanted to choose you. I picked up the keycard, turned it over in my fingers. Not because I had to, not because it was expected, because after having the option to go anywhere, I chose to be here. And if you change your mind tomorrow, then I'll tell you. I set the card back down. Like you said. Honesty. Simon leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I need you to understand something. Last night wasn't about me wanting to share you. It was about me wanting you to feel completely free to be yourself. even if that self wants other people. Especially then. We sat in silence as evening light faded through our windows. The keycard caught the lamplight, reflecting small fragments across the table surface. "What are we now?" I asked. "We're people who know what we're capable of," Simon said. "People who've seen past the edges of what we thought we wanted." I reached across the table, took his hand. His fingers were warm, familiar, steady. "I love you." "I know." He smiled. "That's why this works." "Will there be other times? Other choices?" "Probably." Simon squeezed my hand. "When you're ready for them." I nodded, understanding finally that this wasn't about transgression or betrayal. It was about trust deep enough to encompass any possibility. 3 weeks passed before I used the keycard. Simon was traveling for work, a conference in Chicago that would keep him away for 4 days. The house felt different with him gone, not empty, but expectant, like a stage waiting for its next act. I called the hotel number Marcus had written on the receipt. A woman answered, professional and discreet. "Room 412, I said. "Tonight?" "Tonight." The hotel was downtown, modern and anonymous, the kind of place where privacy was a service rather than an accident. I rode the elevator to the 4th floor, the keycard warm in my palm. The door opened before I could knock. Marcus stood there, but he wasn't alone. A woman about my age, elegant and self-possessed, smiled at me from deeper in the room. "Hannah," Marcus said, "we hoped you'd come." "We?" "Elena," the woman said, extending her hand. "I've heard wonderful things about you." The room was larger than I'd expected, with a sitting area separate from the bed. Soft lighting, music I didn't recognize, the careful atmosphere of people who understood seduction as an art form. "Simon said you might be interested in expanding your horizons," Elena said, pouring wine from a bottle that had been breathing on the side table. I accepted the glass, tasted something expensive and complex. "What did he tell you?" "That you're someone who appreciates new experiences," Marcus said. "Someone who isn't afraid to explore what she wants." Elena moved closer, her perfume subtle and warm. "Someone who might enjoy the company of people who understand pleasure as a gift rather than a transaction." I looked between them, understanding slowly that this evening would be different from the tunnel, more intimate, more personal. A door opening onto something that had no name yet. "What does Simon get out of this?" I asked. "The knowledge that you're completely free," Elena said simply. "Free to choose him. Free to choose this. Free to choose whatever makes you feel most alive." I set down my wine glass and made my choice. Simon met me at the tunnel entrance the next evening. The same maintenance stairs, the same descent into the earth, but everything felt different now. Familiar rather than mysterious. The lamp waited in its usual place, casting the same warm circle against the brick walls. But this time, Simon stayed. "How was last night?" he asked. "Different." I leaned against the wall where it all began. "Elena is remarkable." "She is." Simon smiled. "Marcus thought you'd appreciate each other." "Did you plan that too?" I suggested possibilities. Elena chose to act on them. The tunnel felt smaller with both of us here, more intimate than it had with 4 strangers. Our voices echoed differently, softer, more personal. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Is this what you wanted all along? For me to be with other people?" Simon considered the question carefully. "I wanted you to know you could be. There's a difference." "Explain it to me." He moved closer until we were sharing the same pool of light. When you know you're free to leave, choosing to stay means something different. When you know you could be with anyone, choosing to be with me becomes a daily decision rather than a default. And if I choose someone else? Then I'll know I wasn't worth choosing. Simon's hand found my face, thumb tracing my lower lip. But I don't think that's what you want. What do I want? You want to feel completely alive, completely free, completely chosen. His mouth was close to my ear now. You want to know that every boundary can be crossed and you'll still be loved. The lamp flickered as if responding to his words. I thought about Elena's hands, Marcus's confidence, the hotel room where I'd discovered new facets of my own desire. And you? I asked. What do you want? I want to love someone who chooses me because of who she is, not in spite of it. Simon kissed my neck, gentle and certain. Someone who's explored every possibility and still comes home to me. The bill arrived on a Thursday. Not a financial bill, something more complicated. Simon's sister called while I was making dinner, her voice tight with the particular strain of family judgment. I heard about your arrangement, she said without preamble. I set down my knife, vegetables half chopped on the cutting board. What arrangement? Don't play dumb, Hannah. Marcus told his wife, she told her sister, and her sister knows me from book club. The story had traveled through the small network of connections that make cities feel like small towns. People are talking. I pulled the receipt from my pocket, the one Marcus had written with the hotel information. It had become a talisman of sorts, proof that choices had consequences beyond the moment they were made. What exactly are people saying? That you and Simon have some kind of open situation. That you're seeing other people. Would that bother you? It bothers me that my brother's marriage is becoming gossip. Her voice carried the weight of social embarrassment, the fear of being associated with something unconventional. Mom's asking questions. After she hung up, I sat with the phone in my lap, understanding finally that freedom always came with a price. Not just personal risk, but social cost. The judgment of people who needed marriage to look a certain way in order to feel secure about their own choices. Simon found me there when he came home, still holding the receipt. Your sister called, I said. His expression shifted. What did she say? People know. They're talking. Simon sat beside me, took the paper from my hands. Are you worried about what they think? I'm worried about what it costs you. Your family, your work, your reputation. Those things matter less than you do. Do they? I studied his face. Really? Simon was quiet for a long moment. My promotion review is next month. There have been comments, questions about stability, about judgment. The price was becoming visible. Not just whispered gossip, but career implications, family strain, the slow erosion of social standing that came with refusing to color inside expected lines. We could stop, I said. Close the door we opened. Is that what you want? I looked at the receipt, thinking about Elena's laugh, Marcus's gentle confidence, the hotel room where I'd felt completely alive. No. Then we find a way to live with the cost. 6 months later, Simon didn't get the promotion. He came home that evening with a bottle of wine and a resignation letter he'd already submitted. Not defeated, but resolved. What will you do? I asked. Start my own firm. Work with people who care more about results than reputation. We sat on our couch, sharing the wine and watching evening light fade through our windows. The key card lay on the coffee table between us. Not the original from Marcus, but a new one. Elena had given it to me the previous week, along with an invitation to something she called a gathering of interesting people. Do you regret any of it? I asked. Simon considered the question seriously. I regret that other people's fear made them small. I don't regret that we chose to be large. Even if it costs us everything? What's everything? He gestured around our living room, our carefully constructed life. This? Things we accumulated because we thought they mattered? Our reputation, your career, your family's respect. Those were never ours to begin with, Simon said quietly. They belonged to the people we pretended to be. I picked up the new keycard, felt its familiar weight. Elena's gathering is tomorrow night. Are you going? Do you want me to? Simon smiled. I want you to choose what makes you feel most alive. And if that choice takes me away from you, then I'll know I loved someone worth losing. But I wasn't going anywhere. 6 months of exploration had taught me something Elena had said that first night. Freedom wasn't about escaping your life, but about choosing it fully. I set the keycard aside and moved closer to Simon, close enough to see myself reflected in his eyes. I choose you, I said. Not because I have to, because after every door, every possibility, every person who's wanted me, you're still the one I want to come home to. Even without the promotion, without your sister's approval? Especially without those things. I kissed him, tasting wine and possibility. We built something real, Simon. Something that can survive other people's fear. Outside, the city hummed with its millions of secret lives, its countless small rebellions against expected behavior. Somewhere beneath us, the tunnel waited with its single lamp, ready for whatever came next. We had paid the price for our choices. Now we got to keep what remained.